Okay. So as you can see, we're waiting for a very powerful man to join us in this room. You may or may not know him. His name is Puneet Chatwal. He is the biggest name in hospitality in India and around the world. He runs the Taj Group of Hotels. He's the CEO and the managing director of the Taj Group of Hotels. And he comes from a place of much experience, leadership in hospitality and many other fields. It's extremely rare for him to give time to a conference, to any conference. So we feel very privileged that we're going to spend, a few moments with him in a private conversation. So it's going to be very interesting.
I believe he's managing some 150 Taj hotels
around the world. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very big number, and they're expanding.
And I like the branding for Taj because they brand Taj. They say she is Taj. So it's a very feminine approach to their branding, which is so beautiful considering they might be a substantial chain of hotels.
And I also think Taj is considered a crown, right? I mean, for somebody that, some of the ladies that don't know, I think Taj is considered a crown for a woman. That's why they say she is Taj.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like
very beautiful.
It's like the crowning glory. Yeah. So what we should do in the meantime, as we wait for him, is you guys should tell us how you're feeling today. Nigeria, how are you feeling? Yeah? You guys are really
colorful.
30 of you? So beautiful. You add so much sparkle to our week. It's so spectacular.
I think it's so much color. I want to wear some of these outfits. How do we get them made? Done.
Okay, for any requirements on color or fashion or passion, please go to Nigeria. I know you guys have a stall at the front as well. Before you brought Nigeria to us, I think we all at some level held some kind of stereotypes about what the country is about. You're breaking them, like big time.
And I think they've been breaking it for the last 4 years, because me and Mansi speak about this all the time. You are the most powerful woman on stage, dressing-wise, whether it be speaking-wise or presence. You can see when a woman of your background comes into the room, because everybody just becomes silent. Seriously, because you come as a group and you just conquer. It's amazing. Yes.
And I want to introduce you to Dr. Saraswati. She's like, she's also a stand-up comedian, 81 years young. No, you're how old are you? I can't see. 18. She's 18, of course. Yeah, she's 18. She has done a skit on this platform. Yeah, say something. Just give us a little dose of.
With a temporary husband.
Yeah. She had a temporary husband who was like 30 years old.
And when I presented,
just hold the mic to her. Just hold the mic to her.
This is mine. Just for 8.5 minutes.
Okay.
And
Dr. Saraswati, I think he's here.
Our guest is here now.
Sorry.
We're running.
So we'll take it right after the session. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, in the house, because this is the moment we were waiting for. This is the man we were speaking of. This is the leader in hospitality worldwide with experience ranging. Whistles! Please say hello to the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the Indian Hotels Company Limited, none other than Mr. Puneet Chatwal. How fortunate for us to have Mr. Puneet in the house in a private conversation, in an intimate conversation with Dr. Harbeen Arora, presenting to you.
Warm welcome, everyone, to a fascinating session with the CEO of the most iconic Indian brand known not just in India but internationally. So here we are with the CEO of IHCL, which is the holding company of what we know commonly as the Taj Group of Hotels, Mr. Puneet Chatwal, who is a seasoned hotelier, having worked abroad internationally first and now in India. Puneetji, a very warm welcome to the Women Economic Forum 25th edition celebrations.
Thank you, thank you.
So you've just, I want to first ask you about your journey as a veteran in the hospitality industry. Tell us a little about your stint abroad when you were working in Germany. You also studied in Paris, so we have a little French connection here because I also studied in Paris. So he's been in Europe, in the industry. So tell us a little. We do have a lot of people from abroad here, so it'll be nice to start with a little about your international experience.
Before I start, may I ask you something? I thought you promised there'll be at least 200 ladies in the room. I'm missing that Frauenpower, you know.
They're upstairs in the parallel session room.
But I think this room, the number of women compensate, at least multiply by 5.
Good,
right?
yay!
Okay, I was born and raised in this city itself. I went to hotel school here. I started my career here with the government. I was very proud of that. It was a very good foundation because if you could work in those circumstances, you could work anywhere in the world. So that was, I think, was very good. While growing up, I was a bit concerned because I had a very good company of friends. And they were not only rich, but they were also very good in studies, topping not only the class, one of them topped the whole of the country. So I was worried of getting left behind. And then I thought, what can I do different? So it was clear to me that I'll be going into hotel business. And then I started learning French in the morning and German in the evening because the hotel school was full day. My mother, who was very powerful because she was the principal of a school when she retired, thought I was totally crazy. Says, you know, you're always asking for money to study this, study that. What is it going to bring to you? So somehow I got through that. And one fine day, like yourself, I got lucky to get a scholarship to go and do my MBA in Paris for 2 years. And thereafter, I got even luckier to work in Europe, Middle East, also a lot in Africa, but based out of either the Frankfurt area or Brussels area. I spent 12 years in Brussels. So, and got associated with really only 3 companies. One company that got me there, that was in consulting. So in that, I spent 6.5 years. Then went on to work with the Radisson Group for 15 years. And Radisson became at that time the fastest growing brand, especially in Africa, Russia, CIS countries. And then I was the global head of development. And that was pretty unique at that time because we were a listed company and before we used to be a part of SAS airline. And one fine day, I got a phone call if I could come and head a German hotel group, which I did for 5 years. The most traditional, like Taj is the brand in India, Steigenberger is a very famous German brand and very iconic too. And I did that for 5 years. And then came another phone call if I would come back to India and head the Indian Hotels company. I was very blessed. I can say I never had to go and look for a job because I don't know how to do it. Except for once I graduated in Delhi, we applied for a job. After that, somehow somebody picked me up. I did not have to go through a process. I did not have to compete. It was just out there, and so it happened here too. I have to say, 2nd of August, from Tata Group, someone called me, and 15th of August, we had signed the contract, although I was based on a different time zone and had very little idea who I was talking to on the other side. I'd just met the chairman of Tata Group. So it went very well, and it's in the 18th month, the journey, and we had last 2 days our annual business conference, and we are very, very charged. We have assets that only other people can dream of. I would encourage all the ladies to visit our palaces, our safaris, our resorts, and very, very exciting hotels. I don't think, not only in India, but also in Maldives, in New York, in London, in Cape Town. So Sri Lanka, Colombo, it's some very fantastic assets. So for the competition to be envious. And basically in some, very short summary, that's my journey, and nothing very spectacular, but nothing ordinary either.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Puneetji, for sharing. My next question is that when you moved from an international landscape to the most iconic Indian brand, which is the first made in India global brand, which Indians love, it's a beloved brand. People who run this group, Mr. Tata, they are household names. And if you talk about the Taj Group to anybody across any socio-economic strata, They will know about it, not just having heard about it, but they will know about what the Taj stands for. So much so, I have been doing a secret survey in preparation for this interview with people who work in the Taj. I'm not going to be naming them, but I've been sort of asking them all sorts of questions. And one of the most beautiful, touching things that I heard was that my matrimonial match got finalized because I was working in the Taj. You know, it says something. It says something about the amount of respect and credibility that your brand enjoys. So when you made that switch from the international brands to India's 1.3 billion people's most iconic, loved, relied upon brand, what was it that you were feeling that you were going in for a transition? And when you actually landed 18 months down the line, what has been the change? What has been the difference? What has greeted you differently?
Wow, that's a lot of questions. So, let me start with very simplistic answer, and then I go to the detail of the group as well as the personal part. In Europe, we were cooking with water, and also in India, we cook with water, so not much has changed. So, basic principle of hotel business is the same. I always call it the ginger and garlic business. Basically, you put garlic there, and you put also garlic here in food. So that is not much different. You know, the cuisines can change, the atmosphere can change, but the basic principle is the same. Now to the Tata Group, firstly. Indian Hotels is a part of not only, Indian Hotels is a most iconic group, but Tata is the global conglomerate. It's more than $1 trillion business and does everything that one can think of. I mean, it's almost making salt to making cars to making trucks to having the largest, IT company called Tata Consultancy Services with a market cap of more than 100 billion. So it's larger than Accenture. So there is a lot of, in Tata Steel, I mean, that's very, very significant group. So that way, I think we are very blessed to have this kind of group, because when a group operates internationally, it has the opportunity of preserving the core values of the place where they're coming from, but stimulating the progress based on the global trends and what is happening across the globe. So I think possibly, I don't want to be misunderstood, but I think on the Indian subcontinent, the platform that a Tata Group provides to all its companies and all its stakeholders is possibly unmatched. I don't think there is another group like that. Within Tata Group, I think very important, why is it unmatched? This year we celebrate 150 years of Tata's. The center, the purpose of the company has always been to give back to the society. And that resonated very well with not only mine, I would say the majority of the group personnel, people's core values. So even if you're not like that, I think something happens in the coffee they give you or whatever, that within few weeks, not months, you change, you start thinking like that, right? So it's a good thing to happen. And then within Indian Hotels is the same. So when I came back, I think the 18 months have been a very interesting, very fascinating, and it was also about the right time and the right place. I think the company, for some historical reasons, terror attacks, financial crisis, lot of wrong acquisitions done at a certain time, which were thought right at that time, but in hindsight, as we all know, we are all smarter, that the company was not making money, so we have had a very good turnaround story. We are making a lot of money now compared to where we are coming from. I can't say more because we're in a silent period and would be announcing the results in a few weeks' time. But we turned profitable 31st of March last year. We'll turn more profitable. The first 9 months of this year have been great. And the cycle would be complete that we reinvest that money into our people, into the society, into building new products, brands, etc. So I think that way the journey has been very fascinating, very interesting. We have very good people, as I said. Our people are unmatched for as human beings, but also from a talent perspective. I think we have the most talented, but the most human people because of our core values are based on that. In what does Taj stand for? We redefined what Taj's core values is. We say the T stands for trust, A for awareness, and J for joy. So, and this somehow resonates very well with the Tata brand because its core value or its purpose is leadership with trust. And people trust the Taj name, not only in India but globally, as Dr. Arora mentioned. Why? There are only two names, in my opinion, that if you ask people around the world, name me two brands from India, and we benefit from one, the other one we don't directly benefit from, but that the whole country benefits from. One is Gandhi, and the second is Taj. So we just happen to have the same name as the monument Taj Mahal, so we tend to benefit. So I think gaining trust of all stakeholders, creating awareness around our communities and societies, and having joy in doing whatever we do really makes this transition again very easy. But I would be telling lies if I did not say what has not worked very well. Where Bio-Ayurveda can help me, because one day this will be the trusted brand globally also.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I did suffer a lot from pollution. It's not easy. If you've been in, let's say if 15 years you've spent living in Germany or in Brussels or so, then the air you breathe in is a challenge. I suffered from that. Traffic is chaotic. I have a German friend or a business friend and a designer. We got him to redo our ginger brand. And he says, I think the cars worldwide work on fuel or gas or whatever or electronic, but here they work on honking, The more you honk, the faster it drives. So I think that these kind of small things which have been a part of my life while growing up, you suddenly get, to a different part where if somebody honks, everybody looks, why the hell did you honk? And you come back here is the most normal thing, keep honking. So I think some of these things have to change. I think we are still lagging very much behind on the subject you have here in the positioning of women in the society. A lot has happened in the last 5-10 years, but we have 20-30 years to catch up on. So I think the transition is always interesting, and for me it's a little bit homecoming, so it's fine.
Thank you so much, Punitji. It was very nice and you encompassed a lot of subjects, and that brings me to my next question. You define Taj as trust, awareness, and joy, and certainly there's this expectation of joy, certainly, abroad. So I remember when I went to New York, a friend of mine from New York said, you have to stay at the Taj Pierre. She didn't say Pierre, New York. She says, you have to stay at the Taj Pierre. And she was proud of it so much, because Taj added to the iconic pier in New York, added so much more to her, like as if a whole part of India and the joy of India and the color of India had moved to the pier. Like you said, the iconic names that stand and are synonymous with India are Gandhi and Taj. So, like it or not, Taj stands for a certain Indianness. And there is a word in the Taj which you use, which I'd like you to define for us, and how it relates to Indianness is Tajness.
Yeah, I think that's something very unique. This Tajness is about who we are, how we conduct ourselves. There was a phase where we defined Tajness as having, some kind of afternoon ritual and, welcoming people, the external part of it. But what we have very successfully done, we kept that. So it's lighting the lamps, garlanding the people when they come, doing a little bit of a religious ceremony, in other extras and goodies which are parts of Tajness. But we took Tajness to a totally different level and made it a part of our culture. So our employee magazine, for example, is called Tajness. And so all the staff magazine, covers all the employees, all the properties, so that they can take it home. You can have everything electronic, but you have to think of everyone, from a dishwasher to, a chauffeur, to if they are featured in somewhere, maybe they don't have an iPhone to go home and show it to people, although everybody seems to have one, but still, it's not the same. Similarly, our intranet, which is being relaunched on the 15th, that is day after tomorrow, everywhere we brought in this Tajness or My Taj, or created new posters which are being put up in all the staff areas, what you understand under all these core values of the T, A, and J. And we started, doing more and more communication around it. I think you can never communicate enough. And I would say Tajness is maybe comparable to being more Catholic than the Pope. It's become so important. So it's an important part of the way we conduct ourselves, the way we do business, the way we act, behave, and the way we treat our guests. So it's all stakeholders. We started with the way we treat our guests, and we took it to a different level. So now it's the way we treat all our stakeholders.
Wow. Round of applause for that, really, because I'm going to explain that a little bit. So as I said, in my secret survey, I spoke to all strata, who are, I'm not saying all of your employees, but a representational, cross-sectional section of people. And like you very beautifully said, from the chauffeur who serves the hotel, to the dishwasher, to the people who are waiting for us, who are in the restaurants, the chefs, the people in the gym, the spa, the swimming pool, the cleaners, everybody, right? The housekeeping staff, everybody. And I asked them, what makes you work for the Taj instead of going for a hotel like maybe Radisson or Marriott or whatever? The first thing they said was, our families trust this company. That's number one, because it's an old company, right? So no questions asked if you work for the Taj. Everybody celebrates because you work for the Taj. That's number one. Number two is they perceive it because they know it from maybe other people working in the Taj when they are training, to go to the hotels, that it's a very caring company. It's a very employee-friendly company, and with now recent changes having very egalitarian benefits to everybody, from the director to the vice president to the GM to the director to the staff down the line. There is something as an example called an associated holiday plan that you have, wherein everybody can get 10 nights at any of your associated hotels where they can go. And they said they feel, yes please. They said, we feel so a rush of dignity and respect for us when we step into a hotel and we are treated like this very important guest. So you have made this possible through very egalitarian measures where Tajness is not just extroverted, guided towards the guest to make an impression, externally, but you took it very, very seriously and said, let it be very organic and through, so you don't have to teach largeness anymore. When people are cared for, they care for people. It's as simple as that. What going forward in the recent times, we've seen a lot of leadership changes in the Taj, and the Taj is also, like you said, going through a transition. Business was losing. It's going through a sort of identity change. I wouldn't call it crisis, because something so deep cannot ever have a crisis as such, but it's going through a change and a transformation where you're asking a lot of questions. The organization is asking a lot of questions. Where do you see this aspect of Tajness changing? Because when you have business compulsions, we see you have come up with a lot of brands. There's Vivanta, there's Gateway, there's Ginger. There is a certain look at the business aspect of it, yet there is a people aspect of it, which is sort of people's expectation is this should be unchanging. This should never change, because this is an integral part of the trust that you have gathered in society and with the people. How do you see this balance of responding to the trust of the people and answering the business compulsions?
Before I answer that, I am a bit worried of all the research she has done. I don't think we signed any confidentiality agreement. So I hope what we talk in this room stays in this room. I think one thing I forgot to mention is you'll see a pin here on my thing. So you'll see it on all employees. So firstly, it's a sense of belonging. Then within the pin, there is a color which shows how many years you've worked for the company. And that's another way of celebrating the sense of belonging in an organization. And each of this, because that's like the hexagon we have, which is a symbol of, it's a part of the brand Taj, that represents the stakeholders. So I think that's one. The second is, I think again, it's not about revolution, it's about evolution. And where is this evolution coming from and why is it needed? The evolution comes from the people themselves. And why is it needed is because in the last 14, 15 months, we have become maybe the fastest growing company on this continent. So we have added 30 new contracts in last 15 months. We actually signed 4 more in the last 2 days. Now, and the company is 115 years with 149 hotels in operation, right? And suddenly you add in 15 months 30 contracts. So you can't keep doing business the same way as you have done before, because as a stakeholder, your owners of these assets are important. The new employees coming into the system are important. You have to integrate them, and you have to deliver the promise and the results. So this, there's a famous book by Marshall Goldsmith, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So we are very proud of our history, we are very proud of our heritage, we are proud of the 115 years. Actually, within the Tata Group, we are the oldest company, because some of the other businesses that started before us wound up, so are not existent anymore, or times have changed, they're not needed anymore. So I think that's the key, is to preserve the core and stimulate the progress. So we keep the core values and we have to progress. So another thing is like AHP. AHP was what you mentioned as Associated Holiday Plan. Next month, we will be taking also this to a new level. It will not be limited to 10 nights. We thought we should give more to the employees, and maybe there'll be a year of transition, and then we might introduce some kind of a staff rate, which they also have today because they have to pay the tax. So we're trying to find the right formula with the auditors, and then it becomes to unlimited number of nights. I mean, unlimited means at least 30, the number of holidays you have in a year. It's about providing in all our hotels creches for working women. It's about also giving discounts. We will be introducing a discounted offering on food and beverage. So a lot of employees who got the room for free, but they still go out to eat. Maybe they get 1 meal free during their stay. So there are so many things, initiatives you can take because ultimately happy employees will create happy customers, and happy customers will help you deliver on the promise. So all this is in the making. Some has happened, some will be happening, and we don't want to be a straight line because then you die. So it's keep moving and keep taking things which are good to a higher and a better level.
Thank you so much, Puneetji. This was, really the soul of the Taj that you shared, the people at the core and all stakeholders, the community, the customer, everybody. There are projects that the Tatas and the Taj do with villages. You've literally adopted villages, enabled the crafts and textiles in those villages, and water and housing and a lot of things. I'm not getting into the community service projects. You mentioned about that it's important to you, when you care, looking at the female employees as well. Providing daycare is one of the most important. Worldwide it is known, it is the single most important initiative that a corporate can take to reintegrate mothers back into the workforce, because of life choices and life cycles, they need to take that break. And that daycare, that they can continue to work and they don't have to choose between their child and the economic opportunity is absolutely wonderful that you do. I want to ask about the percentage of women employees that you have currently in your organization, and what are the plans that you have in future to possibly, hopefully increase it?
See, yesterday we had an important speaker, a very important, influential person in India, heading a great organization, working directly with the government. And one thing he said in his address was, we have very few women employees compared to the rest of the world. We are not even at half. We're talking about maybe 20%, 22%, whereas many developed nations are talking about 48, 49%, having more and more women in the boards, in the top management. And I think maybe it comes from the fact that we're still not 100 years independent. But I am personally a believer that forget everything else, forget having a diverse opinion, having more stability. Just the very fact, if you have more women around you, the men tend to behave better.
I couldn't agree more, absolutely.
So personally, I would say what we are doing is good, but is not good enough, both as a nation and as a group. So we are currently at around 16% of our workforce, which is a little lower than the average of India. The reason for that is because of odd working hours. It's not considered safe, although we provide transport, etc. Culturally also, it's not considered appropriate for women working in the night shift, etc., etc. So I think we have a challenge there. But I was very happy to be, after joining, for example, Ginger brand sits in Roots Corporation. And we were able to appoint a women head who happened to be the first managing director and CEO of a brand. So this was not only a great professional woman, which she is, and at that time, I can only say she was working very closely with me on a project on turnaround of the profitability of the company. And I was very worried, being new to the organization, do I let her go and help her grow, or do I keep her for this purpose? But we let her go because now what she's doing with the Ginger brand had not happened for the last 18 years. So I think these are choices we make. And recently also on our head of sales and marketing, we have promoted a veteran. A lot of times women are also, okay, now women, men is the same. You cross 50, you are considered old. So, which I have also crossed, but I don't want to accept I'm old. So this is, I think, there's a lot of issues around here in the world that it's not just getting the women, is also getting people in the right age, giving them the right tools, giving them the right exposure, providing continuous education, development. uh, what what we knew yesterday does not work today, and definitely not tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Puneetji. Just taking on that question of that there needs to be a lot done in the whole ecosystem to ensure, women rising in the workforce, including in the Taj Group of hotels. There is a phenomenon worldwide called the leaky pipeline. And the leaky pipeline is that while we see a lot of women rising in education, in law schools, in any course, life sciences, management, you see almost parity at the school level. So women in a classroom are reaching 50-50. When we are talking 50 years back, when there would be one woman in engineering class, Vinay told me in MIT there was just 1 or 2 women in the engineering school. But now they are almost like 30, 40, 50% of the education, higher education. And then they come into the workforce at the lower management, at the middle management. There's a very high proportion of women. And the leaky pipeline says as we go along the ladder of promotion and the ladder of life, women are also facing life choices, birth, maternity, again the whole ecosystem, and then maybe biases at work, which makes for the fact that women start dropping out of the workforce, which is the leaky pipeline, and with the result that we don't have too many women reaching the top of decision-making positions. So while we start with 50, it keeps coming at the top, we just literally are left with like a 4-5%, even less at times, across all fields. I'm just giving a general phenomenon. If you were to give us one suggestion, while I understand it's the whole ecosystem that has to work together to fix the leaky pipeline, if from your perspective, from your experience in your hotels, if you were to suggest one measure to fix the leaky pipeline from your end, what would that measure be?
That's a very difficult question to answer. If I think anybody knew the answer, it would have already been implemented. And it's not by doing that one thing that you can bring in a change. You have to do a lot of things at all levels. I think it starts with already women really wanting to reach that level. I think if that could be somehow inculcated in women, then that would happen.
So your one fix would be encourage measures to ensure more self-belief in women.
They have the self-belief, but their choices, at least I can only, kind of relate to the women with whom I went to school or college or I worked with. Something changes at like 35, 40, 45, and that drive is not to the same level as was in the school. I remember I had a cousin, or I still have a cousin, we were same class, and I never dared to swim next to her because she was so good in swimming, she was running faster than me, she was doing everything, but at some point she just stopped. I said I had good company of friends from school time, they were very good and a lot of them were women. The one came first in whole of India in grade 12. She is still doing fine, she's a doctor. But there were other two who were great. But that drive somehow at some point got lost. They're actually encouraging me and driving me than doing something for themselves. So I think I don't have an answer.
But you did answer that for us. I think what he's saying is we have to fix the leaky pipeline inside of us first. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that moment of introspection. And certainly really, really appreciate. And we had a wonderful session. I will...
Just before you finish,
yes.
I want to ask this part of the...
Yes.
Just don't misunderstand. She's been calling me with the name G. That's not a part of my name. My name is only Puneet, so that's what people call me.
Dear Puneet, it's very difficult for me. In Indian culture, somebody senior and out of respect for somebody, you always add the word G at the end of the name. So, dear Puneet, thank you for that liberty of addressing you in such a direct way, so that as if we are friends and in friendship to the Women Economic Forum. He's a very busy man, ladies and gentlemen, and we are so happy that he took out half an hour from his time to be with us. And Puneet, would you like to give a last message to the women business entrepreneurs here before we leave and we felicitate you?
I would have only one message. I mean, no, actually two. In the pursuit of excellence that you're all trying to achieve for the women, you know, please keep doing what you're doing. It's very important for our world. And second is, please keep coming back. India is a country of colors, but the color you have added in this room is fantastic.
We feel humbled and extremely privileged to have an award. Mr. Puneet Chatwal, this award for the Leader of the Decade in Hospitality and Innovation on behalf of the All Ladies League at the Women Economic Forum in New Delhi at Taj Dwarka 2019, celebrating Tajness.